Let's take a look at Thursday. Injury news. Joel Embiid, a trade that's completely inconsequential. All-Stars announced. Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily fantasy basketball podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and the woke agenda is when schools turn co-ed. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Twitter as always at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can get $250 in bonus bets if your best bet of $5 or more wins. Go to FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. Thank you also for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free. We are available on all platforms. Double bang. Go and listen to the audio, come across, let the video play out, give it a thumb, give it a bell, give it a subscribe, and leave your comments down below. Less than 7 days away from the trade deadline show. Live trade deadline, Thursday, February the 8th, 1 p.m. Eastern, over here on the old YouTube. Come and join me. It'll be a fun show. Very sure it's going to be a fun show. Let's talk about Thursday. There was only 4 games on, but we do have a lot of stuff that did happen, which gives me something to talk about. But yeah, just a lot of things going down across the NBA. I'll start just quickly talking All-Stars. The reserves were announced. I don't have gigantic issues with them, to be honest. I would have had Trae Young in on the East side. I would have had him in over Julius Randle. I probably would have had a Porzingis or a Derek White in over a Banchero or a Jaylen Brown. I don't really think that... Brown, yeah, I'm not that interested in Jaylen Brown being in there, to be honest. I think he's been okay. I think there's been other guys way better. But 2 guys are going to be out of that All-Star game, I'm guessing, and that's Randle and Embiid, and one of them is going to have to be Trae Young. I'm guessing that gets in, and maybe Scotty Barnes is the other one. In the West, I think Towns was probably a little bit lucky. I would have had Gobert in there, or Fox or Sabonis, even though Fox obviously has declined significantly recently. That's probably all I would have changed, I think, across those teams. Yeah, but nothing super, super egregious. I just don't think that the Towns one, I would have preferred someone else. I would have had Trae in over Jaylen, and yeah, you can make the argument about Polo and some of those other players as well. But yeah, whatever. That's how the All-Star game goes. There's going to be guys who are going to be out through injuries as well, and that's going to enable injury replacements to get in. That brings us to one of those injuries. And I didn't even include the Julius Randle update on this list because other things I've got to talk about. But Julius Randle, we got the update. It's about 2 to 3 weeks of at least 2 to 3 weeks of reevaluation. That sort of ties in to a similar time frame that we thought it would be. Nothing really changes there in terms of the value. It's DiVincenzo, it's Hart, it's Achua, and we still don't fully know how that works with Achua when OG Anunoby plays. But we'll talk about the Knicks later on. The big one though is the Joel Embiid injury, and still some confusion around it. We got the news yesterday that he was going to be out for Thursday, and then they were going to wait for sort of swelling to come down to get a scan result in. Then we get a scan result in saying there's a meniscus injury, which is a very weird phrasing. Shams initially tweeted that there was a meniscus tear, and then he backtracked. He walked it back and said, sorry, corrected, it's a meniscus injury, and across the weekend they're going to be determining the exact course of rehab. Now, that's fine, Shams, and people do freak out about the term tear, but let's understand what it means in a medical sense. It's any sort of rip in it. It doesn't have to be torn all the way through. It's not like ripping a piece of paper down the middle. It's a small nick or a full tear. It could be all the way through. It could be a number of different things. And honestly, when you look up meniscus injuries, the only meniscus injuries that really exist are tears. So I'm not sure what the consternation is between that wording. I tried to find what other injuries there could be on a meniscus. There's something called a frayed meniscus, which is through old age usually, where bits sort of peel away. A fray is like the end of a rope. But that's sort of a tear anyway. So when you hear tear, it doesn't mean, well, that's it for him. When you hear injury, it doesn't mean, well, he's safe of a tear. I can't see any other meniscus injury that's not some level of tear. The difference in recovery from meniscus injuries is a couple of things. They can do non-surgical procedures on it or non-surgical treatment. They can do meniscus repair. That is the best long-term outcome, but that will rule him out for the entirety of the season and for the playoffs. or they can do a meniscus trim, which is what he had done whenever it was 2 years ago. And the location of the tear in the meniscus or the injury in the meniscus is going to depend on what they're able to do. How deep that is or how big that injury is will determine the length of time here from Embiid. So while we know there is a knee injury, we know it involves his meniscus, we don't really know what it is. We don't really know how long he's going to be out. I would say at this point we're looking 3 weeks, right? I would say absolute best case is 3 weeks with a non-surgical best case outcome, I would guess. If there is any sort of surgery, your best case is going to be 6 weeks, but given it is Joel Embiid, given he has knee problems, given he's got previous meniscus problems, given he weighs 300 pounds, I would think that pushes 6 to 8 weeks and probably ends his at least fantasy season and maybe NBA regular season. He pushes back for the playoffs. That would be my, if I'm going median outcome, my expected outcome. It's that at least the fantasy season is over for Embiid, but do not drop Joel Embiid. Let's just wait to see what the actual news comes out because it's still murky. The fact that there was a meniscus injury and then Shams had to walk it back to say not tear injury. Again, I don't know what other... I sat and looked at this. I tried to find as much information as I could. Can't find any other injury to a meniscus that's not a tear. So I don't know what they're talking about. I don't know what else that could be. But that's why we wait. We don't wait to make ads. We wait to do drops with someone like Joel Embiid. And once we get the information, if they say meniscus repair, then that's at least 6, probably 8, and that is a drop. But I don't know yet. We'll talk about Embiid's replacements when we do the Sixers game review later in the day. We've got a bit of an update on Des Bane. I talked about this, I think, about the same time last week, actually, when there was that weird statement on that podcast that nobody seemed to pay attention to, where I said he's looking to cut his recovery time in half and be back. Well, that recovery time being cut in half is today. So he's obviously not doing that. He's obviously back for that. Then we saw the still photo of him out on the practice court, and my understanding was that he wasn't participating in that practice, he was watching. Then we got another report today saying he's doing some movement shooting. So I'm trying to figure out what's going on here. And this is what I heard back, right? See, I said, look, what's going on? How is this possibly a grade 3 sprain, yet he's out there already? This grade 3 is a full, complete tear. Why is he out there? What's going on? And the response I got back was, he says, everything I've been told, it's a grade 3. Okay, right, that's pretty weird. He goes, he's still technically at the pace of the timeline that he was initially given, but he is pushing it. He says, I doubt that he gets back earlier, but Des historically has pushed himself on injuries. So, while I won't say that's 100% clarity or it's 100% clear, this is someone telling me what they know about it, suggesting that there's a little bit of posturing perhaps going on and that the 6-week timeline minimum still holds. And it was, in fact, a grade 3, which again would make me think that there's just no way he's going to be back before that. But we don't know. And we'll talk about the Grizzlies later. This is the OG lying injury report team. Mike Conley back in the day. Jaren Jackson's knee injury 2 years ago. Something maybe could have happened like that today with Xavier Tillman. Who knows? All of the random soreness injuries. And even if Bane does come back at 6 weeks, I feel very, very confident that A, he's not going to last the entire season. B, it's going to be 1 game in, 1 game out sort of style. C, minutes restrictions. And just a complete mess where there's 8 guys listed on the injury report every day. That's what I fear will happen here. It's frustrating for us to try and figure it out from a fantasy perspective, but we've got really not much more we can do, unfortunately for us. There was a trade. Steven Adams traded for Victor Oladipo and second-round picks. Neither Victor Oladipo or Steven Adams is going to play this season. Adams will be the backup center in Houston next season behind Alperen Şengün. I don't think that this means that the Rockets are going to be like, yep, minute split, so our best player plays fewer minutes. But Adams is obviously an upgrade on Jock Landale, Jeff Green as a backup, and maybe everyone's just aware that Adams' knees can only run as an 18-minute a night play. He's only 30, but sometimes it happens. Your knees are just cooked, and that might be the case here for Adams. So I don't think it doesn't worry me really about Şengün, but that's the most inconsequential in-season trade I've ever seen from a perspective of what it does for fantasy or even the real NBA this season. Nothing changes. Oladipo is not playing. LaMelo Ball is doubtful for tomorrow because, again, the Grizzlies and Hornets are going back and forth. Who can be worse? Howie is doubtful. I don't know. I know a lot of people just think that there are people who legitimately think that Ball is finished for the season. I don't. There are people that think that Ball is 100% getting shut down. I don't. I'm not telling you that he won't end his season 2 weeks early because he definitely will. But that doesn't mean that he's done before the All-Star game. I just don't know. It's very weird what is happening yet again with this nonsense franchise. But I think Ball will be available and play. Şengün is questionable tomorrow with an illness, so just keep an eye on that. Because if he is out, then you do fire Cam Whitmore up. Because Jabari plays at center and Whitmore plays a lot at the 4. And the Raptors guys, quickly, Barrett, Pirtle, they might all be returning. So if you've been looking at a Trent, a Schroeder, a Bruce Brown, a Thad Young, their values are not quite going to be exactly the same as it was. Today's episode, it is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Happy Super Bowl to all of you who celebrate from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Super Bowl Sunday. What's it about? The game? Sort of. Food? Yeah. Getting the best position, the best party, the best atmosphere. Yeah, that's all important too. So is placing super bets on the Super Bowl. Chiefs or Niners, who is going to win? Who are you looking at straight up? Who are you looking at with the spread? What about Super Bowl MVP? Would you pick anybody that's not a quarterback? Could you possibly choose McCaffrey? Could you go with Marquez Valdez-Scanlon? So that's his name, isn't it? Scanlon? I'm not a football guy. I'm not a rapper. Anyway, FanDuel has so many ways that you can end the season with a W, or 2, or 3. Find all the different ways over at FanDuel. But before you do that, go and join up. Get the $200 in bonus bets by placing a $5 bet that wins. That's all you got to do. $5, win, get $200 in bonus bets back. FanDuel.com/lockedon is where you go to sign up. That is FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And don't forget to gamble responsibly. Okay, let's look at some waiver wire trends over the last 24 hours. Who's been added, who's been dropped. We've got a little bit more time on this show today before peripheral stuff, so let's do it. Number 1 add is Paul Reed. 100% behind that. Needed to be done. Kelly Oubre up 20%. Tyrese Maxey returning today, but obviously Melton's still out, so I'm okay with Oubre. More shots with Embiid out. Santi Aldama up 11%. He was a late addition to the injury report today as questionable. Oh no, they're gonna be really annoying here. And then he played like 39 minutes, and I'm going to go out on a limb again here with Santi and tell you, he's not playing tomorrow is my guess. They got a back-to-back. They played him 39 today with a late injury report listing. They're going to do this consistently. I'd be very worried about him playing tomorrow. But it worked out fantastically today. This is the problem with guys like Aldama, is he'll play 27 minutes, or he played 39 minutes, or he's in or he's out, or he shoots 60 from the line and 40 from the field, or he goes 70 from the field. It's all over the shop. It's not reliable with nearly anyone on that team. Andy Wiggins up 8%. Yep, look, he's rolling. Just grab him. Brucey Brown up 8%. I get it. It's chasing a little bit, and the value is almost definitely not going to be there tomorrow when at least 2 of those 3 players return that I just mentioned. And the other one who was an ad was the big sneeze, Precious Achiuwa. Again, they are just gigantic, massive gaping holes with no Anunoby and no Randle. So Achiuwa was able to fill in that hole pretty nicely, put up some really good numbers, and when you're playing 44 minutes or 43 minutes, you are going to just trip over into fantasy stats. That's what he's doing. I still don't buy it long term, but what if he is the guy? What if he gets the 40 minutes and Josh Hart goes to 28? It would seem completely incongruous to anything that Tom Thibodeau has ever done in the past, but it could happen. The other guy that was out today was Grimes as well, so you had a lot of minutes not available to pump it into these other guys, and that's what happened. And Precious was great. Most drop players, I think I'm going to agree with most of those. Jabari Walker, yeah, he's transitioned into a stash. Jaime Jaquez, he's only a deeper league player now. The pencil Harrison Barnes. Barnesy? Yeah, he's a drop. We only stream him in. DeAndre Hunter, very clear drop. Andre Drummond, absolutely not needed to be rostered. This one I don't agree with. Why is Grayson Allen down 5%? He missed 1 game. People are like, all right, you're white and you're Grayson Allen, so I'm just not going to trust you. Like, okay, he's been a top 80 player all season. 1 game off, and not everyone, 5% of people are washing their hands. I think you guys are wrong. Go back and add him if someone did drop him in your league. So that'll bring us to talk about the games. The first one, the Indiana Pacers and the New York Knicks. I have a bone to pick with the Pacers. I've got lots of bones to pick. The Tyrese Halliburton injury one is horrendous, and I'll continue to tell you it's horrendous. I don't know how long his minutes limit is going to continue. I do expect that he plays tomorrow, but who knows? Who knows? But the fact that he pushed to come back early and they let him do it because of, again, the stupid rules. And now, I don't really have to, actually, you know what? Do I have a bone to pick? Sort of, but not really. The thing is that the way that the NBA is making these guys play to get this, to push to just being there is what's important. The NBA is so focused on you've got to be in the games. So much so that they're like, even if you're not playing, make sure you're sitting on the bench and smiling so people can see your face. That's what they care about. Appearances, showing up. Not about whether you're playing the game properly, not about whether you're going full speed. They don't care about that. They just want your face there to show them, hey, look at the big smiley face. That's what they want. And that bothers me a lot. Again, little thing adds up where you see the rule, got to sit on the bench. Okay. Got to be playing in the games even if it's detrimental to your health, but at least you're there. Doesn't matter if it makes the product worse or makes your team worse. Got to be there. Haliburton played 22 minutes, 15, 4 and 5 with 2 blocks. And spare me. If I worked in my job, I wouldn't get paid. Okay, cool. Who gets paid when they don't show up to work? Literally never what happens. The players do show up to work. You know what you can't help? Injuries. And again, I don't know how long this is going to last with Haliburton. But given what that injury looked like, he should have been out 3 weeks minimum. And he came back too early. He re-aggravated it. Zion re-aggravated his hamstring last season, cost him like 2 months. I believe this will last Haliburton the rest of this week, maybe through to the All-Star break. Honestly, I just don't know. Why I'm not going to have too many criticisms of it from how the Pacers are currently handling it, because they're right, is that he's only got 22 minutes to play with, and they're like, well, why don't you save him for the closing minutes? Well, what they do is he gets in, warms up, plays like the first 11 minutes of the game, sits down, goes into halftime, warms up again, comes out, plays the first 11 minutes of the third quarter, and he's done. Rather than playing 5 minutes, sitting down all through the end of the third, the start of the fourth, and coming back for the final 6, you don't get that proper warm-up in, and then you're at more risk of pinging it. So I do get it. But again, it leads to a worse team outcome and a worse product on the court. By him trying to now do the right thing by his health, by not allowing it to cool down too much in between playing stints. 15, 5 and 2 with 2 blocks. It's hard to complain too much about that production, but we know it could be more. Miles Turner played 24 minutes. There is going to be the urge from people to drop him. I understand this. The reason I know there's an urge is because people have told me they want to drop him. Please don't. Like, he averages 33 fantasy points for the season. That's a top 70 player. He is a top 65 category league player. Yeah, it's a slump. 153rd over the last 2 weeks. It's fine. Don't do anything stupid. Turner, just look 2 games ago. He had like a 20 and 12 game with 2 blocks, I think, 2 games ago. He had foul trouble here. He had 5 fouls, so he only played 24 minutes. He had 5 and 4. I'm not telling you it's a good game. It's bad. I think his back might be bothering him. His shooting is off. Don't worry too much. What we do love is that Jalen Smith stepped up. Sticks played 24 minutes. He had 20 and 9 with a robust Richie Beno. 2 threes, 2 steals, and 2 blocks on 82% shooting. Love that from Smith. I don't think that you need to roster him in 12s, but that's obviously very useful. Siakam had 18, 7 and 5 at pretty rough shooting. And I was going to say I don't know what to do with Buddy, but I think I do. Get that garbage out of here! 28 minutes, 3 points. He had 2 blocks, 13%. He's so way off. And if he was playing 32 a night, I'd be like, we're all in, we're adding him. But consistency or reliability is a part of fantasy. And if you're going to play 33 minutes one night, that's why I'm never going to roster Lou Dort. Outside of, we'll take a flyer as a streamer. If you've got the ability to play 33 minutes or 17 minutes or score 1 point or score 20, I'd rather use that spot to get an extra 1 to 2 games in for the week versus relying upon you and waiting for your 1 or 2 good games. Yes, I might add Lou Dort off the wire and he still delivers, but he would deliver exactly the same thing that Buddy had here. And then I can use that spot for 2 more games. So I don't think we need to hold on to Bud. Remember in this game, still no Mather and McConnell was a DMP actually in this game, interestingly enough. Nembhard had 10, 3 and 6, which is not bad. He just shot horribly. He's not a must-roster player to me. Maybe hold because they play tomorrow, but otherwise I don't think you need to roster him. And Neesmith played 37. Is that bordering on sell high? A little, because we've got the absence of Mathurin, which might cut in a little bit. He had 17 and 6, Neesmith with 3 threes. Topman did all right, but yeah, I don't think there's much more out of that one. For the Knicks, just basically an 8-man rotation. That's why we've got tons of minutes. Hartenstein, minutes limit over, 36 of them. 12, 19, and 6 with 1 block, 75% shooting. Shout out to Reddit fantasy basketball legend EG, who I would say he was on the Hartenstein bandwagon as a player before me. He was probably the only person, to be honest, because I was a Hartenstein guy before he entered the NBA. But this guy, EG, and then he created a subreddit on Reddit, which I found yesterday, called r/Hartenstein. It's very humorous. This guy is super passionate about Isaiah Hartenstein. Hartenstein's pretty good, isn't he? Shout out to EG. If some idiot dropped him, like obviously going at him. Preston Chua played 43 minutes. That's a key thing, 43 minutes. Now, have I changed my mind that this guy's good? Nope, I haven't. I don't think he's good. This is a center averaging 31% shooting. Well, not averaging, had 31% shooting here. He missed his free throws. He had 12 and 16 with 4 steals and 2 blocks. But over the last 2 weeks, he's averaging 28 a night, not a top 130 category league guy. He's a better points league player for sure. But I just think those 43 minutes are coming because there was no Randle, obviously, who's out. There's no Anunoby, and there was no Grimes. And Anunoby and Grimes might return next game. And Precious goes back and plays 13 minutes behind Hartenstein with like 8 minutes or so behind Anunoby. And that renders him not a 12-team league player. But I could be wrong. Brunson, 40 and 5. Good scoring. The rest, this is why Brunson doesn't always top out as the best fantasy player. Because 40 points is great. But where are your steals, where are your blocks? He had 1 assist, low volume threes as well in this game. But the efficiency is awesome. And Juice McBride had 16 in 29 minutes. Every time that Juice has had an opportunity to step up this season, he has. He's not always going to get those opportunities, but every time he's been pushed into action, he's been really solid at doing it. DiVincenzo had some really terrible shooting, 31% for 20 points with 4 threes and 2 steals, and Josh Hart had even worse somehow. Missed every one of his shots. He did end up with 5 of 6 from the line, but missed all 6 field goal attempts for 5 points, 12 rebounds, and played 38 minutes. But the priority still remains DiVincenzo, then Hart, and then below them is Achua. DiVincenzo or Hart are 12-team league players. And Flynn was like the 8th man in here, was getting 7 minutes. So basically it was a 7-man rotation because Flynn only played the 7 minutes. Today's episode is also brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. It's also the easiest and the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports because instead of worrying about thousands of other people who might have better lineups than you or in there with more time to set things up, it's not that. It's just you against projections. Prize Picks sets them up. You knock them down. You do between 2 to 6 of the individual player stats, whether it's points or rebounds, assists or steals, blocks, fantasy points, whatever it is, or other sports as well. You choose them between 2 to 6, and you can win up to 25 times your entry fee back over at Prize Picks. They've also got the old community plays under the promo tab where you can see Meek Mill and the picks from Andrew Schulz as well. So, go ahead and go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Use the code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. That is prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. The code is LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks is daily fantasy sports made easy. I've got this really, I was going to say good habit, but it's really annoying that no matter what is happening, we've got 4 games on, 10 games on, I'll find a way to sort of stretch it out so that every show is the same. Josh, just talk less. Let's talk about the second game of the day. The Lakers go up to take on the Boston Celtics. The battle for the banners. What a huge game it's going to be. Primetime stuff. And then LeBron and Anthony Davis were out, so just going to turn into a bloodbath. Yeah, you're right. Except it was the Lakers who laid the smackdown on the Celtics, and they get the very, very comfortable victory that is more comfortable than the 114 to 105 margin would have you believe. Just a pretty weird game. Celtics have some terrible losses at home recently. Well, not terrible, some against good teams, excluding the Lakers. But for a team that hadn't lost at home all season, they've lost 3 in about 2 weeks. So for the Lakers, as I said, there was no LeBron, no Davis, and then Jared Vanderbilt left after 16 minutes. And that looked not ideal, that injury. He sort of went to push off, and yeah, then he was in pain. That's like the stereotypical Achilles injury. They're not saying it's Achilles. I don't think it's Achilles. But when you see it, you go, oh no. Because you see him sort of plant back and push forward, and it pops off. It doesn't pop off exactly, but, you know. They're claiming foot soreness. He missed a lot of the season with a heel bursitis problem. So, yeah, it didn't look good. He did. The injury didn't. So we just have to see what that is there with Vanderbilt. He had 10 and 7 with 2 threes and 3 steals in 16 minutes, which is honestly a fantastic line. But now he's hurt. And Jackson Hayes was great. What about this guy? 7 steals in the last 2 games. 16 and 10, 34 minutes, 3 steals, 75% shooting. Cool. If Anthony Davis remains out, which we don't know, Hayes is a good stream. LOL legend Christian Wood had 4 points in 19 minutes. He shot 11%. And he's got to continue to be, no offense to the man, I've never met him, but just going by whatever you hear, whatever you see, whatever you hear him say, whatever you see happen on the court, whatever you see from coaches, he's got to be just about close to the worst bloke to have on your team. There's just, like, is this petulance and whining because he didn't start that he shoots 11% and has 4 points? I don't know. Wouldn't put it past him. For most other people, I'd say, no, just a bad game. This bloke, no. I also shout out to that guy that a couple of people showed me today. This guy that was calling all these random NBA transactions years ago, like Kawhi's going to go to the Clippers. LeBron is making trades with the Cavs to help set things up for him to get it back to the Lakers. And then he's called out that the Lakers are looking to trade LeBron right now this season. I don't buy it. But LeBron, egg timer, tweet emoji, I don't know. Imagine I'm doing the live trade deadline show and LeBron gets dealt. I think I'll probably die, honestly. It might be one of those ones where you can use the show as evidence. I'll be dead, I reckon. Austin Reeves' last 2 games have been ridiculous. This is one of the biggest buy low bumps I've ever seen. 32 points, 7 triples, 35 minutes, 56% shooting. And honestly, I was questioning myself a bit with him and with D'Angelo Russell. Now, Russell's line's not terrible. You look at it and go, 16, 8, and 14 is pretty good, Josh. Yeah, nice counting stats. 4 threes and 2 steals. But what I was going on about and saying, well, I don't really buy Russell. I think he's not that very good of a player. I don't really see who'd want him to be their starter. And he would go for the next 3 weeks and shoot 58% from 3 and be the most dominant force on the court, on a court that had LeBron and Anthony Davis. I went, okay, well, maybe I'm off. Maybe I'm just off. Well, no. He shot 25% in this one. He missed his free throws. He racked up some assists, but he's been quite poor in the last two games. I don't think there's any chance he can hold 39 minutes all season because I don't think he's going to be on this team. And your sell-high window is probably closed after these last 2 performances. With Vanderbilt out, who was replacing LeBron, Rui Hachimura then stepped in as the third-string guy. 15, 8, and 4 with 3 threes. That's for Rui. That's actually a really good game, but I don't care. If we do hear that LeBron is out and we do hear that Vanderbilt is out, I would consider Rui a 12-team points league guy, maybe a category stream player, but I'm not really doing too much more with it. For the Celtics, there's not really a lot to talk about here. They just bench guys. They're like, well, you guys don't have it. 3 minutes into the third quarter, come out. So everyone's minutes are low. Porzingis, 29. Tatum's aren't, 37. White, 33. Brown, 27. Porzingis. Drew, 29. More minutes for Pritchard. More minutes for Hauser. Got 24 minutes for Horford. But our fantasy takeaways here are just negligible. There's nothing to see. Porzingis had 5 blocks, but I'm not gonna waste your time going on about this game because there's just not a lot to talk about. Honestly, there's not anything more we need to go through. Let's go to the next one because this is the Cleveland Cavaliers. This is the Memphis Grizzlies. We had some lineup changes. J.B. Bickerstaff told us yesterday that the plan was for Evan Mobley to play 20 minutes and then he'd be available to do the same on the back-to-back. And then today he said, actually, LOL, I misspoke. Did ya? Is that what a misspeak is? When you say the exact opposite of what you mean? Or did you lie? Or did Mobley's knee not pull up well yesterday? Could be any of those things. Hey guys, Mobley's going to play the back-to-back. Oh, actually, I meant the exact opposite. Sorry, guys. I don't know what came over me. I meant the exact opposite. So Mobley didn't play. And the thing that is annoying, and it's the same thing with the Embiid in Denver situation, is for me, for my job, which you don't care about, but let me talk, is I do these things. I do projections. I try and tell you who I think is going to be in or out, how I'm going to project this stuff, and how values rise on this stuff. And I projected that Embiid would be questionable for that game against the Nuggets with a high chance he wouldn't play. I had Mobley listed as out for this game, with guys like Dean Wade getting boosts because I didn't expect him to play. And they come out and it's the conundrum. If a coach tells you something, do you believe it? Or do you go with common sense? I don't know what to do with it. So that happened. So that's great. That's why I'm like, yeah, is Halliburton actually going to play tomorrow? Who knows? I couldn't tell you. The Grizzlies made some changes to their lineup as well. And I feel like this is going to be just a regular thing for this team. Vince Williams returned. David Roddy Piper moved to the bench. John Conchar returned. Xavier Tillman moved not only to the bench, but then 10 minutes after the game had started, the team decided to tell us, oh, LOL, Tillman's actually doubtful to play because of knee soreness. Isn't that funny? Oh my God. So sorry. Sorry about that. Yeah, he's actually not going to play. That you knew all along. This is why tomorrow I think it's going to be a disaster thing. Will Rose play? Will Kennard play? Will Adama play? Will Jaren play? Will Tillman come back? Will be a random soreness to Vince Williams? Will Scottie Pippen have a headache? I think it is going to be, as I chuck up the wrong game up on the screen for you, I think it's going to be really tough. And that's what I talked about earlier on with the Bane scenario. There's just going to be a complete disaster the majority of the season. The Cavs win it in the end. They were down early. 108, 101 the final score. Dean Wadey Wade did his best Nick Batum impression. 6 points in 28 minutes, 2 threes, 2 steals, 2 blocks, 5 rebounds. Nice 14-team streamer if we get a scenario where Evan Mobley rests, which you'll say, Josh, that doesn't matter. And I agree. But let me flip this around just quickly because Jarrett Allen got hurt in this game. So Mobley will come back and Allen might sit. So Mobley moves to center and Dean Wade starts at power forward again. That's why it's important. Long way to get there, but we got there. Allen seemed to sprain his ankle, 14-9 with 3 blocks. And if you remember, he missed the beginning of the season with a bone bruise in his ankle. Not great. And with the All-Star game, All-Star break 2 weeks away, this is almost, if you got an injury that's like a 10-dayer, you're out. You're generally going to be out 2 weeks, get the extra week to rest it, and then come back. Just watch that one. Watch that. Garland played on the back-to-back, limited minutes. He had 9 points, 10 shots, which is bad. He had a raft of turnovers. I'm just finding the exact number. 3 turnovers in those 24 minutes with 7 assists. Cool. And Don Mitchell cooled off a little, 25, 4, and 7. Better game from Strus, but only 29 minutes. He had 11, 10, and 4, while LeVert dropped in 16, 1, and 3. LeVert remains a points league guy, a category stream. I think Strus is more of a category stream, even though this is a better game. And we got 22 from George Niang and 21 from Okoro. Okoro played 30 minutes last game and had 4 steals, but we're obviously not trusting that. For the Grizzlies, again, I don't know what to tell you here. Santi Aldama played 38 minutes. 18-9 with 4 threes. That is great. 2 blocks is great. Playing 38 minutes, is that the expectation for Santi? I don't think so. He still only had 15 minutes. He was a minus 13, which is team worst. Again, that's always a little bit important. Didn't take a free throw and shot 57% from 3 to get to this number. So while this all looks really good, there's a lot of things here where I go, 38, nope. 58% shooting, nope. 57 from 3, nope. 2 blocks, nope. Will you get those minutes? Nope. Will you even play tomorrow? Don't think so. So he's fine to have. Just don't bank on it. Don't bank on anything with this team. Vince Williams returned 17-6. Scott Pippen, 10, 4, and 4, 3 steals and a block. I love that from Scott. We predicted he'd be ahead of Gilead. He is, although they split minutes. The problem here is that next game we might have Kennard return. You might have Rose play. You might have Bane eventually return. And Pippen plays 12 minutes. So even in this game, with all these guys out, he still only played 22. It's nice for deeper leagues. Not sure it's going to make a dent in 12s. Lil John Conchar had 8 points only. He had 2 blocks. He's like a worse Alex Caruso, which has 12-team value. Jaren had a little bit of a fall, hurt his back, but he returned. He played 34 minutes, 25, 5, and 5, 1 steal, 3 blocks. Watch for the Jaren Jackson back soreness injury status tomorrow. He's putting up some great numbers outside of his field goal percentage, which is horrendous at the moment. I would say there's no chance he'd last the season. GG Jackson, 10 points in 29 minutes, but the horrid percentages. This is part of the issue with him. 21%. He had 2 blocks. He's more of a 14 or 16 team league guy versus a 12 teamer. He is a very specific I get you points player, and we need a lot of guys out. But again, we look at the injury report. Kennard could return, Smart could return, Bane could return. I don't know what to make of Tillman. Laravia could be back really soon. Matthew Hurt, who was a off-the-street legend last game, didn't play in this one. Zoe Williams didn't play. He could return. Derrick Rose could return. Does Brandon Clark return? There's a million variables here. Shout out to Trey Jemison as well, who had 5 points in his 14 minutes and honestly played pretty well with Tillman out. And we'll see what they decide to do with that as we move forward. The answer is I have no idea. All right, let's go to the final game of the night. It is the Philadelphia 76ers. We're watching them without Joel Embiid, of course. Not that we haven't seen it before, but yeah, long time coming. Tyrese Maxey returned though, Patrick Beverley to the bench, and Paul Reed slotted back into the starting lineup with Joel gone. So, how did it go? Well, it went okay. Very long, drawn-out end of the game, but it was still a very good win. 127 on the road against the Jazz, 124. Maxey was brilliant. In his first game back, Nick Nurse said, don't worry about your ankle, you'll be good, mate. 41 minutes. He had 51 points with 7 triples. Now, there's not a lot else going on there, just the 2 rebounds. But he shot 63 from the field and 91 from the line. So you look at that, and you go, man, it's going to be awesome. I've got Maxey. I love this. It's going to be fantastic without Embiid, but I would just caution something. He's not going to shoot 67%. He's not going to go 7 from 9 from 3. He probably won't go 10 of 11 from the line either. You want some of that other stuff to come through, and the complete lack of anything else apart from scoring is a little worrying. So I know it sounds a bit down after, the man's just dropped 51 points. It's one of those ones where you go, yeah, there's no way. Like that doesn't hold. I think Hogsman was really good though. I like what he did. Toby had 28, 5 and 7, steal, block, 62%. That shooting will come down, but he did some other stuff. And then Kelly Oubre, 40 minutes, 16, 4 and 2, 2 steals, 3 blocks, 3 dribbles. That's all great. We do need to factor in there was no Melton, there was no Batum, there was no Morris, and they would all have a part of the rotation. Oubre at the moment absolutely got some good value. Remember, over the last 2 weeks, he's been playing 31 minutes a night, and including today, he's the 149th best player. So obviously, not very good. But while there is extra usage to go around, we can roll that way. So how did the center spot go? Well, Paul Reed, again, it looks great. 28 minutes. You'll say, is it great? Yeah, it's actually pretty good. 7 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal, 2 blocks. Would have been better if he didn't shoot 33%. The worrying thing here to me is he was pulled off, giggity, with 9 minutes to go, and he didn't close the game. They closed with Mo Bamba. Actually, technically in the last 30 seconds, they went to Patrick Beverley and to go real small, but Bamba was in at the end. So Reed still did his damage. He played 28 minutes. He did what he needed to do. And in the starts this season, he's only averaging 26 minutes a night. So this is totally reasonable. This is actually just expectation. And anything you get above this is a real bonus. So while it's annoying that Bumba was in the lineup to close, and I'm not really sure why, apart from the fact that he did have 3 blocks, Mo. He had 4 points in 18 minutes on 29% shooting with 9 rebounds. It was a little frustrating with Reed, but still good. Bumba's the deeper league guy. Reed is the 12-team or must-roster guy across the board. Dan House started for Batum. He didn't really do anything there. For the Jazz, it's a lot of the same stuff for them. Colin Sexton is low minutes and high volume. 22 points in 25 minutes with 6 assists. Markkanen was great, 28 and 10. Keontae George is a jack.
Get that garbage out of here.
Jordan Clarkson struggled with both percentages, but had 16 with 10 assists, so he's a rosterable guy to me. Dunn had 3, 3 and 4 with 2 blocks, and Collins had 34 minutes for 15 and 9, which is good. Like, that's back to being a 12-team league guy. And Walker Kessler, you'll be frustrated. I don't think he's getting good minutes. I don't think he's getting 25 a night at any point, really, unless trades open things up. But 8, 7, 4 blocks, 100% shooting. It's hard to argue too much. Now, my arguments against him in the preseason were he's a very, like 3-category player, but in high strength. And he's still that. Field goal percentage with blocks and rebounds. The problem is the volume of field goals is down and the volume of rebounds is down. Still blocking shots, but he's more of a block specialist now than sort of a more well-rounded, all-around player that some thought he might become in the preseason. They are the 4 games that are done for Thursday. Let's look at the stream of the day recaps. Your 10-team stream of the day was basketball Paul Reed. He had 7 and 10, 4 assists, steal, 2 blocks. Pretty good. Vanderbilt, remember, Jared Vanderbilt got injured, didn't play in the second half, and it still pays off as a 12-team stream. 10 and 7, 2 assists and 3 steals. Chris Dunn had 3, 3 and 4 with 2 blocks. It's not that good. It's okay. Your 16-team stream was Mo Bamba, 4 and 9 with 3 blocks. I think that works out in a deep league for sure. He's an add in those spots. And then Paul Reed for Yahoo points, 33. For ESPN points, 32. Total W's as well. This is why these guys are rosterable players right across the board. Let's look at the monstrous line of the night, the best performance of the day. You are absolutely not getting any prizes for trying to guess who the monstrous is. It is Tyrese Maxey with his 51 points and 7 triples. What about your waiver wire line of the night, the best player that is rostered in under 50% of leagues? We're going to Memphis because the big fella Santi Aldama had 18 points. He had 9 rebounds. He had 2 blocks. He played a ton of minutes. I hope he doesn't get scratched tomorrow, but I do fear it. Your young gun of the night, the best performer from a first performance from a first or second year player. And that goes to Santi's teammate, Vince Williams, who had 17 and 6 with a block, continues to be an absolute must roster player. And lastly, it's the dud of the night, the worst performer from a highly rostered player. We are going to the first game of the day. It's Indiana. It's Miles Turner. He had 5 and 4. Do not drop Miles Turner. It is a massive, massive buy low opportunity for you to go and grab Miles Turner. Your top 6 players for today. Of course, when we look at the category league, top 6 players, we know where we're going to start. We're going to start with Tyrese Maxey at the top of that list, followed by Lauri Markkanen, Toby Harris, Kristaps Porzingis, Colin Sexton, and Santi Aldama. Your top 6 players rostered in under 50% of leagues. Number 1 was Santi Aldama, followed by Sticks. Jalen Smith benefited from Turner's foul trouble. probably a 14-team league guy. Jackson Hayes, just stream him if Davis is out. Jared Vanderbilt, well, I'd love to hear about the injury, and I'm worried that it's serious, but otherwise, yes, he's a 12-teamer. Scott Pippen, too many variables there. Stream him when you hear he's starting, that's about it. And then Rui Hachimura comes in at the bottom of that list. Vanderbilt, again, one of the best players, despite under a half a game. And Rui Hachimura's in there. Look, if guys remain out, LeBron and Vanderbilt, then I would consider him, but not much more than that. Your top 6 players in Yahoo Points Leagues today. Number 1 was Tyrese Maxey, followed by D'Angelo Russell, Tobias Harris, Larry Markin, and the big sneeze, Precious Achiuwa, and the stubby himself, Isaiah Hartenstein. Let's wrap this bad boy up. Your guys that you want to look to add, Paul Reed, just add him. Aaron Neesmith, if he's still available, we're adding him. And honestly, while OG Anunoby is out, I think you add Precious Achiuwa. There's just too many minutes there. I don't know that it holds later on. I am not a big Precious guy, as you're well aware, but I think we go that way. And then there's 2 guys in Indiana who I think are drops, except they play tomorrow. So there's no real point in dropping Buddy Hield or Andrew Nembhard right now because they do play a game on Friday. So they're on your roster. You get that extra game in tomorrow. Doesn't cost you a waiver move or anything like that. But I do think longer term they are guys. So if you had to move on from Hield, move on from Nembhard to go and add Paul Reed, yes, I would absolutely do it. But if it's just like a stream sort of scenario, you hold on to those guys and get that extra game out of them. Guys, hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe, hit the like, hit all of that stuff, double bang, leave comments, and we are done. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.